We do have one individual that I've received a card from in the audience who would like to give testimony. And so we're going to ask if Ms. Brandon Melissa will come forward and give some testimony. As she's coming forward, I will also mention that each one of you have a folder. In your folder, or is a copy of the resolution along with an email that we all received that we are going to submit to be on record from Matthew, who talks about in this email he talks about how social media is playing such a great role, and oftentimes young people being caught up with the sense of trying to feel belonging to, and sometimes get trapped into some of these sexual traps. And so we will take and admit this letter into our records. Miss Melissa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Like I told you, even though this subject is not constitutional, stay in your ground.
Yes,
Don't
ma'am.
break down. Because if any of y'all who are sitting in this room pay attention to WBRZ, you have the OC's model inmates sitting in Rayburn right now. Education wasn't deterrent. His victims came from Jimmy Swaggart Bible College. 2 of his victims are my blood relatives. When my mom confronted youth leadership at Jimmy Swaggart's in 1990, after one of my brothers tried to kill himself during recess at school in 5th grade, about what Todd Michael Duquette did him. They refused to remove that fool from the youth. So his 5 convicted victims that he's serving a suspended sentence for because he refused to comply with Judge Irwin's orders to not be around minors unsupervised. When Judge Irwin gave him a suspended sentence and allowed him to go to Teen Challenge, he completed Teen Challenge with flying colors, went to Texas and exposed himself to a 10-year-old. They gave him 10 years. Both times he came up for parole. My mom wrote letters to them. That's why he got denied both times, because they didn't really know about his previous crimes in Louisiana. And the Bible College youth leadership told my mom and our neighbor that caught him messing with my brothers that they knew that my 2 brothers in 1990 were not his first 2 victims. His youngest convicted victim was 8 years old. In 2018, DLC sent my mom a letter, and being that the mailman knew that she was my mom, even though she was passed away in 2017, he asked me if I wanted it, and I could see Mickey's name through the clear thing, so I say yeah, because that's about the dude that messed with my brothers and those other boys. It was for his parole hearing in March of 2019. First thing I did, other than knowing Morgan Lamondre, was contact Chris Nakamoto, who my mom was very good friends with, and I still am. My mom told me 3 days before she passed away that she kept him in Texas. I would have to keep him in Louisiana. I didn't mind fighting the domestic violence fight for her, but reliving that is not what I wanted to do. Because like I've even made known to everyone, if I would have been home the day he messed with my brothers, he probably would have left my mom's apartment in a body bag. Our neighbor that we went to church with, was trying to make eggs, fry eggs. She spilled bleach on the floor because something kept telling her to go check on my brothers. So when she finally did, she seen that dude in a very compromised position. My brothers were so scared. We knew where my mom's self-defense stuff was because of how we came to Baton Rouge. my brothers could not get to it because of the way he was on them and the fear that was probably instilled in them.
Yeah.
So in 2018, when he denied his crimes against my two brothers, which everybody has documented, they already knew what happened because the retired DA that prosecuted him, my mom drove her crazy from the time it happened till whatever, you know. So everybody already knew all that. He got unanimously denied. In April, well, yeah, April Fool's Day is when I got the notice that he was gonna be early released, 16 years before his sentence completion. And some people sitting in this room who work for organizations, I swear up and down there pro-victim, when I said something against Todd Michael Duquette being given resources to transition out of prison, when this person knows exactly what I've been through in the last few years, from what happened to my brothers when they were 9 and 11, it wasn't victim friendly at all. I have not talked to that individual since then. Like, why do I have a problem with child sexual predators being given resources so they could transition into society? Well, the media caught up with Todd Michael Duquette back in '94 because he refused to register as a sex offender. That's when WAFP put a TV camera in his face and went to his door and tried to find out why. Well, the Judge Urban was watching, obviously, Channel 9 when that happened. So he got a court date, and that's when his incarceration career started. I'm livid at the thought of even thinking that my mailbox could find a letter telling me that he's either I found out before Christmas, he can reapply for a parole hearing. So, yeah, I gotta live with that now. Not on residence or proof residence plan is not the only way he can get out. Cause when Chris got on the story after I got my letter, he got revoked. DLC doesn't like me or Nakamoto, and I really don't care. But I found out from somebody else that he can get another parole hearing. The trauma that brings up to me, and I will be 40 in September. I was 6 when my brothers were hurt. Still to this day.
Were you there when were you there with them, or
I wasn't functionally independent as I am? So I was at my aunt's house in Gardner.
Okay.
Because my mom had to go do some volunteer work for an organization or probably one of the professors. So I was at my aunt's house.
Okay.
Had I been home, Todd Michael Duquette would not be breathing right now. And my personal opinion, the only thing that would deter people like him, since education doesn't change nothing, religious stuff doesn't change anything, because like I told you, he was in school with Jimmy Swaggart. That's where he gained access to his victims, all of them, but the one in Texas. He told judiciary that he would not be around them minors unsupervised. That's why Judge Urban agreed to let him go to Teen Challenge instead of throw him in jail for 30 years. He got out of Teen Challenge that he completed with flying colors. Exposed himself to a 10-year-old. So in 2008, when that sentence was over, he's back here. And all of y'all are paying to keep him away from kids. But the safest place for people like that is in prison or dead, if you want my personal opinion. Because me personally, the only thing that's going to deter that is public execution. But we can't do that either.
Oh, no ma'am. Can't do that.
But, I mean,
But I understand. I definitely can understand your frustration, and I sense your anger. and the what happened to your brothers, the violation to your brothers.
And the one that has a Purple Heart that lives out of state. When he was in 5th grade, it was 11 days before Christmas.
Mm.
We came to Baton Rouge because, I'm sorry, next Wednesday will be the 33rd anniversary that I watched my dad leave my mom to die. Friday is going to be her 70th birthday. That's why we came to Baton Rouge March 1st, and then we were in the battered women's shelter before Iris took it over. And March 14th, we moved into the complex on Seegan. Guess who the first person that knocked on our door the night we moved in an apartment to take my brothers to the youth group was?
Mm.
He knew my mom's situation, but that's who they go after. He probably groomed my brothers and gained their trust, so they wasn't thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When my mom needed somebody to watch my brothers, he was the first one that offered.
Mm.
He didn't give her no vibes like what he
Yeah.
was going to do to them. And the other one turned around and coped by incesting me. But he's in federal prison for, because your commissioner of insurance wants to be a jerk, even after knowing what he did me, and refused to take his bail agent license away from him till I informed them in June that he was in federal prison for abusing those privileges that he was given in 2014. And if these organizations, Morgan is an angel, y'all need to give that girl a raise for she has to put up with me when I get in my trauma situations and I want to explode. But the other organizations that claim they want to, pro-victim and pro-survivor, questioning me being against somebody like Todd Michael Duquette being given resources to transition out of prison. I have a right to have a problem with that. I mean, you have sex offenders walking around this building every day during the legislature. I keep my distance from the ones that I know about. For that very reason. I cannot. But if you're going to be pro-victim, don't sit here and badger me because I feel the way I do. I have a reason to feel that way.
Well, thank you so much for your testimony.
I mean, I hope at some point that we can find a resolution, but personally, from experience, nothing is going to deter them. I hate to even say that. But the trauma that causes is lifelong. So life in prison without parole would be the most humane constitutional thing to do, but I don't know if anybody's going to be willing to pass a bill like that. Just my opinion. I'm sorry for rambling. It's just bad time of the year for me. But I wanted to be here to support you.
Well, I understand that. Sorry for your loss with your mom. I know part of your history, and so. But I thank you for your courage to share your testimony and to be a voice for many who cannot be here today. Many young kids, and that's what I often think about, because children oftentimes are not able. They don't feel comfortable. They are fearful. They never say anything. If they do say anything, it's oftentimes when they're grown up. And then it comes out. And so that's why I was really looking at something drastic.
Yeah.
In an effort, hopefully, to come to a resolution that would scare people enough where they would stop hurting kids, hurting babies. So
I
again,
would say go with life without parole upon conviction, since we can't do what they used to do in the olden days with the public executions. Since constitutionally you can't cut their stuff off. But even then, at some point, that probably wouldn't stop somebody that's predisposed to do that. And it could be more dangerous for some victims because they would use whatever they,
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much, Miss Brandy,
You're welcome.
Melissa, for your testimony. And with that, I guess that'll be a good segue to talk about other options. I've heard that quite a few times from some of our panelists here on the DS here, and so I'm really open to looking or hearing about what may be some of those potential options, and I would turn to you, Miss LaBray, since you are a psychiatrist in terms of the behavior mentally, and in terms of your experience as it relates to mechanisms that can be utilized, hopefully, to stop it from ever happening. That's my goal. And by taking such a drastic measure with the surgical castration, I thought that may be something that would scare people enough that would make them at least think about it before doing it. So I would like to hear your feedback on that.
Just to clarify, Senator Barrow, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a therapist. No,
okay, I'm sorry.
I don't ever want to speak outside of my scope.
Okay.
So I can't speak to any of the medical or pharmaceutical interventions that can be used with offenders. And I also primarily have worked with survivors.
Okay.
So I do want to highlight something that Miss Brandy had said, and also thank you for your bravery in sharing your experience and so much of what you've had to endure. But you made a very good point that the surgical castration, while it is an extreme deterrent that we would hope would deter people from offending, the compulsion would still remain. And so therefore the offender, if the compulsion was strong enough, would find other ways to offend. So that point, I appreciate you bringing up, because that's something we have to think about. I've also worked with